part of that review of where we're at with gun litigation. So stay tuned for that. Also, we'll get to Governor J.B. Pritzker going back and forth, button heads with President Donald Trump. So yesterday's comments from Pritzker ranging on the pardons of January 6 defendants to even a gesture that Elon Musk made over the weekend during celebrations for the inauguration of Donald Trump. So we'll tackle that as well. But up next, we will talk with an individual who was charged with crimes on January 6th, but is now vindicated after action by President Donald Trump. So stay tuned. We'll talk with Larry Lias in just moments here with Illinois in Focus Daily.
Six commutations.
People who attacked the Capitol on January 6th.
Approximately 1,500 people. Six commutations.
People who attacked the Capitol on January 6th were attacking law enforcement, because that's who was there guarding the Capitol.
These people have already served years. Horrible. It's inhumane. It's been a terrible, terrible thing.
That's President Donald Trump signing the pardons of January 6 defendants, followed by Governor J.B. Pritzker reacting, and then Trump again talking about the severity of the punishments that those defendants have endured for what he says was not a crime. Welcome back. Illinois in Focus Daily. I'm Greg Bishop. Thanks for hanging out with us. We'll go into more detail about what Pritzker and Trump had to say yesterday, but I want to talk now with Larry Lias. He is a January 6th defendant who's vindicated after actions from the president earlier this week. Larry, thanks for taking time with us this morning live with Illinois in Focus Daily. Lay out your story. What were you charged with?
I arrived at 10 a.m. on January 6th. That's why I'm known as domestic terrorist number one. When I arrived at the U.S. Capitol, I had no ill intent. All I wanted to do was talk to maybe a member that was maybe walking by to explain to him about the election criminality that I've witnessed in Chicagoland area. That's part of what's happening in America. It's not just happening in Chicago, but it's the base to what may happen during the 2020 election. I wanted to talk about the stale voter rolls, and I wanted to bring value to the Republican Party that was opposed to door knocking, they were opposed to ballot chasing, they were opposed to early voting. So I'm very experienced at ground game because I'm a Chicago registered Democrat. The reason why I'm a registered Democrat is because I'm a conservative. And I believe all conservatives, we believe in one thing: USA, USA, USA. And if we could all focus on that, as they did in this last election, is why we could all unite. In Illinois right now, we're losing a lot of good residents. We shouldn't be losing the good residents, and they're being replaced by violent residents that are illegal immigrants. So I spoke about that as well a little bit on January 6th. But when I got there, I was shocked not to see any serious police officers and zero National Guard. On January 5th, they mentioned that there should be about 10,000 National Guard officers. I even asked somebody, I said, am I at the right location? Because it was a ghost town. When I walked around the Capitol, I noticed a couple suspicious gentlemen in suits. So I went up to them. They were giving me a little bit of a shady eye. And I introduced myself. I even was willing to even show my ID. I said, is there a chance that I could be invited in to the mezzanine viewing room? Because on January 5th, I was told that I have opportunity to be maybe invited in. And they said that they're waiting for their member to escort them in. So they weren't too happy about me asking questions, so I moved on. But that instant, gave me a possible that, hey, I may have opportunity to be picked to mezzanine viewing room. So I kept a positive attitude, and she expected to have some redneck from maybe rural, Midwest to start, bragging and chanting about how great, President Trump is and how the election was stolen and all that. And we got into a deep conversation about election criminality. And I stated that I'm not moving on away from the need for national voter ID. So this was like about 10 o'clock, about 10:30. And then several other journalists started approaching me. And then a producer or somebody from a podcaster came up to me and said, would you have some time with talk to us? And that podcaster was somewhat knowledgeable about Chicago. And I had zero inkling, no knowledge whatsoever. And I had no ties to anybody in any organization that, people mention about QAnon and Outkeepers and Proud Boys. I'm so focused on Chicago that I had no clue who these characters were. So I was a lone wolf. But during the interview, I was having a good time with this podcaster, and he started mentioning about, Chicago 1960. And I said, wow, my godmother worked for Board of Elections during the Kennedy election. And I also mentioned about the family, one of the strongest corrupt political, basically person that gets the vote out for the Democratic Party. And I said, I know them very well because I've been holding them accountable. And they did wrong in 2019. And I couldn't get the local authorities to look at the case, open up a case. So in 2019, Greg, I contacted the FBI after the local authorities told me that they're getting pushback to hold these people accountable. They're very politically connected. They have power up to Joe Biden. They are the political godfather for Barack Obama. And there was an official police report done by me as a victim, as well as the head election judge that was a victim of the intimidation by these known gang members that were intimidating voters not to vote and intimidating election judges, which are election criminality, federal election criminality. So I contacted the FBI, and at that moment is when they opened up an investigation on me. So I was the victim of election criminality in Chicago, and turned out the corrupt FBI opened up an investigation on me. So I was under FBI investigation prior to January 6, 2021, for being a problem solver, for having the courage to stand up for voice for them, knowing that we needed national voter ID.
Well, Larry, we're looking at the count they have against you here, and of course, you can read through that. They essentially say that you committed trespass and went on to the Capitol grounds. So, all of that, of course, with the now news that President Donald Trump has issued pardons. Your reaction to what this means and what's next for you?
Well, what that basically is, some of those, Greg, that you mentioned are the basic that most people got arrested for, which are all egregiously overcharged just to make a case to scare people into, just pleading guilty, getting like a parking ticket and just moving on, which makes sense. Because I believe the corrupt DOJ FBI, the DC corrupt DOJ FBI has blood on their hands, because they forced multiple law-abiding demonstrators at the Capitol to commit suicide. That is where I am standing, and I am going to mention that at a press conference tomorrow at 2 o'clock in Chicago. Because the pressure that they put on you and sometimes physical damage from, aggressive arrest as me when they busted down my door pre-dawn raid with no phone call, no advance warning. They physically damaged me. They emotionally, psychologically, I am still trying to recover from a lot of the damages. But the serious charges that they put on me was with a superseding indictment when I refused to, weaken, to sit down with the FBI agents that I believed at that time that were corrupted with the Kool-Aid from the DC, DOJ, and FBI to get all these guilty pleas on demonstrators like myself that were there just to see the process working out. Additionally, there were many single moms there with their children as like homeschoolers to basically show the children a little part of history. I continue on, looking backwards to, I understand what, President Trump did on his blanket pardon of a lot of the violence and the seditious people that were allegedly, sent to prison for seditious conspiracy. So even though I wish he would have done case by case, because I didn't want to be blanketed in with the people that committed violence, the people that damaged the Capitol, but it is what it is. And I can understand that he talked tough during the campaign, and he didn't want the media to come back to him and say, when, tiptoeing around all the violent people, and you're just pardoning the peaceful, law-abiding ones. So he's playing smart politics, and I think eventually, when the average understands how the DOJ, FBI overused the seditious conspiracy account, because I believe that they even tried that on me, that's part of the superseding indictment that is public record against me.
And this pressure that's been put on you and others, obviously taking a toll. What kind of recourse do you feel you have in all?
I am seriously looking at it right now. I'm just trying to recuperate a little bit because my team and we were focusing on going to trial. We had a pre-conference on February 19th scheduled, and we started preparing for trial with just 4 misdemeanors, which the DOJ realized that we would beat them in court. Then that's when they added one felony, and then we thought that felony would be dropped because everybody else that was nonviolent in the United States that were charged with that felony, they were dropped except the Lias case, because I was a problem solver, pragmatist, accomplished, out of Illinois, and they wanted to basically tarnish me. And taking a plea agreement, I don't look at it as a badge of honor, as a lot of the extreme far right. I look at it as a badge of shame. And that's why I wanted to fight to get my name cleared and get fully vindicated. And that's why I thank President Trump for doing what he did. But we're living in a very divided country.
And we'll be watching closely. And of course, you've got a news conference scheduled for tomorrow at 2 in Chicago. Give us a bit of a preview of what you're going to be discussing there and why people should follow what's going on.
Well, Greg, I'm a youth mentor, and I believe in helping out Illinois because Illinois is really hurting. And I'm hoping that at the press conference, we're really going to shine a bright light on who may really know what really happened on January 6th, weeks before, that they had opportunity to get enough law enforcement there to put up real security fences around the Capitol if they didn't want people to breach the Capitol or storm the Capitol. They had little bike racks. And I was on the east side, the peaceful side. And I want to Mickey Do Nothing Durbin accountable. He is the strongest leader in Illinois. Too much focus is on Governor Pritzer, on Chicago Mayor BLM Brandon Johnson. we need to start pressuring Dick Durbin on what he knew prior to the January 6th, because I believe January 6th was not an insurrection. It was a massive scandal with a ongoing cover-up, and I think Dick Durbin knows a lot. And he needs to be held accountable.
And Larry, my last question here for you is your thoughts on the last pardons that former President Joe Biden gave, right? I mean, it wasn't just his family members. He also pardoned Dr. Fauci, General Milley, and the January 6th committee looking into what happened there and any of the witnesses that they had there. Your thoughts on that pardon?
It's disgusting. It's disgusting, giving people pardons that, haven't been, investigated, because I assure you, all the majority of the people that he pardoned were not even investigated properly.
Well, do you think Congress should have the likes of Liz Cheney and Adam Kinzinger and Dr. Fauci and whoever else that's been pre-pardoned? Should they be in front of Congress to answer some questions?
I 100% believe that, and it should be done because they need to be investigated to the level that I was investigated for being law-abiding and peaceful. They need to be fully investigated. These pardons are getting a little bit over the top. Joe Biden had opportunity to pardon me as a lifelong Chicago conservative, old school Democrat. He chose to give me the middle finger leaving office and not even attempting to dismiss all my charges because his DOJ, his corrupt DOJ, is the ones that sabotaged me with all these charges just kept adding more egregious false charges. But beyond looking at taking legal action against the false charges, I'm also looking at taking legal action against some of the extreme far right that were intimidated by my leadership on January 6th, possibility raising questions that they didn't have a ground game. They didn't understand how to win. They didn't understand how to get the vote out. And they started tagging me with, he's a Democratic plant. Well, sorry to tell you that President Trump wouldn't be in office right now if it wasn't for 50% of the voters that were old school Democrats, that are conservative Democrats, Latinos, and my Italian friends that voted for Trump, and they're still Democrats. So what I would like to do to be a Democrat, they're choosing not to change their voting, card and stop, considering they're an enemy. We're all one.
Larry, we got to leave it there. Larry Lias, a January 6th defendant, vindicated by President Donald Trump's pardon yesterday of 1,500 people. Greatly appreciate you taking the time. We'll be tracking what you do. A news conference tomorrow at 2 o'clock. You're going to be spreading more sunshine on this issue. So we'll talk again soon, all right? Be safe out there.
Thank you.
It is Illinois in Focus Daily. Still working on coming back from not being here at the home studio for 3 weeks. Got all these buttons that I've got to relearn and everything. All right, it's Illinois in Focus Daily. Thanks for hanging out for that live interview there. Larry, an interesting perspective. Definitely wanted to share with you, especially after the news of President Trump pardoning a bunch of January 6th defendants. But we got more to get to, all right? So it's right here with Illinois in Focus Daily. Stay tuned.
Elon Musk standing up and giving a Sig Heil, and then excusing himself for it by saying, well, he was just, putting his heart out to people. I think it's disgusting. It should be called out. The president should call it out. And
it's Governor J.B. Pritzker talking about a hand gesture that Elon Musk made during official ceremonies around the inauguration of President Donald Trump. Pritzker had a lot to say yesterday. So did Donald Trump. Good morning. It's Illinois in Focus Daily. I'm Greg Bishop, and you can subscribe, hit that notification bell. Join us each and every weekday morning as we break things down for you to better understand in the land of Lincoln. Of course, if you missed the conversation we had with Larry Lias, January 6th defendant, vindicated by the actions of Donald Trump yesterday or earlier this week. I think it was Monday when he signed the executive orders in the Oval Office after being inaugurated.
First, we have a list of pardons and commutations relating to events that occurred on January 6, 2021.
Okay, and how many people is this?
I think this order will apply to approximately 1,500 people.
So this is January 6th. These are the hostages. Approximately 1,500 for a pardon.
Yes.
Full pardon.
Full pardon or commutation?
Full pardon. We have about 6 commutations in there where we're doing further research.
And he goes on to talk more about, the different cases and whatnot. And they did announce that they were, like Joe Biggs, Stuart Rhodes, some other controversial figures in that collection. Governor J.B. Pritzker yesterday at an unrelated news conference, he was really critical of the Trump administration's pardons.
It used to be the party of law and order, is now the party of chaos and disorder, and that stands against law enforcement. The people who attacked the Capitol on January 6th were attacking law enforcement, because that's who was there guarding the Capitol. And there are so many pictures and videos. If you don't know it, go look, because there were people who died, law enforcement who died as a result of the attack by those January 6th rioters. And he fomented that. I was at the White House not very long ago with President Biden, and there's a room behind the Oval Office that he showed me, which is the dining room when he wants to have lunch or dinner, in a private setting. People don't usually see this room. It's the room that the President Trump sat in for 3.5 hours watching TV as the January 6th rioters that he encouraged were attacking the Capitol. Sat there doing nothing. Like one of the most important institutions of our nation was under attack, and President Trump, who had the ability to stop it, did nothing for 3.5 hours, and people died. Thank you.
One person died, Ashley Babbitt. She was shot by Capitol Police, and a lot of people, injured and bruised up, and some damage done to the Capitol. Not everyone was violent. As you heard with our conversation with Larry Lias, he was waved into the Capitol. A lot of people caught up in that fashion, just walking into the Capitol. They weren't part of any violent mob of sorts. But Pritzker also, saying that Trump incited the riot. That might be an opinion, but I don't think Trump's been convicted of inciting a riot. So Trump, he had some reactions to reporters asking questions about the J6 pardons yesterday at an unrelated news conference.
These people have already served years in prison, and they've served them viciously. It's a disgusting prison. It's been horrible. It's inhumane. It's been a terrible, terrible thing. I also say this: you go to Portland, where they wrapped police officers, shot police officers, nothing happened to anybody. You go to Seattle, where they took over a big chunk of the city and people died. Portland, a lot of people died. Wait a minute. And you go also, take a look at Minneapolis, because I was there and I watched it. And if I didn't bring in the National Guard, that city wouldn't even exist today. People were killed and nobody went to jail. So these people have already served a long period of time, and I made a decision to give a pardon. Joe Biden gave a pardon yesterday to a lot of criminals. These are criminals that he gave a pardon to, and you should be asking that question. Why did he give a pardon to all of these people that committed crimes?
It's an interesting question, something that he says really does need to be answered. The January 6th committee on investigating the riot, they allegedly destroyed evidence. And the likes of Liz Cheney and Adam Kinzinger, Republican from Illinois, and the various witnesses, in addition to Dr. Anthony Fauci being pardoned by Biden and General Milley being pardoned by Biden and his close family members being pardoned. But Trump obviously made those actions and getting some controversy. But Pritzker also talked about immigration yesterday, saying that he hasn't heard anything from the Trump administration on immigration enforcement efforts, though he has heard whispers of it.
The question was about whether I've received any communication from the Trump administration about their immigration actions. None. And I think that's just more evidence of, look, I don't know. They've not communicated with us, so we don't know when exactly those enforcement actions might take place. We have heard that they're targeting as many as 2,000 people initially in the city of Chicago alone. Issued that would suggest that President Trump is trying to get rid of birthright citizenship in this country. That's unconstitutional, what he issued, the executive order. And we will not follow an unconstitutional executive order, and we will follow the law.
And you can go read the executive orders that President Donald Trump signed on Monday, and they range from, national energy emergency to securing the southern border. One of them essentially spells out what the Trump administration's interpretation of the 14th Amendment is for birthright citizenship, focusing in on the words subject to the jurisdiction thereof. So essentially how I read the executive order is, and you can find this at whitehouse.gov, is essentially saying that the Trump administration interprets that birthright citizenship is not granted to somebody born to non-citizen parents, going to get held up in courts. And you got Democrats like Dick Durbin and J.B. Pritzker pushing back against this. Here's Trump talking about how this is very needed and it's ridiculous. Illinois or the United States had birthright citizenship.
This next order relates to the definition of birthright citizenship under the 14th Amendment of the United States.
That's a good one. Birthright. That's a big one.
What about that one in the court? That one is likely to be passed.
Could be. I think we have good grounds, but you could be right. I mean, you'll find out. It's ridiculous. We're the only country in the world that does this with birthright, as you know.
So he says he believes they're on good ground. We'll watch how that goes. Pritzker yesterday also critical of Trump's economic policies, saying that tariffs are going to cost consumers.
In the flood of all of the proposals that he made yesterday, there was nothing that would lower costs. In fact, he proposed tariffs on goods coming into this country from Canada and Mexico, and is proposing having an entire department that's dedicated to tariffs. Well, guess who's going to pay for tariffs? So he is raising costs for people across this country, not lowering them.
So the governor saying that tariffs are going to cost consumers, but Trump said while signing different executive orders, the push for tariffs has a simple plan behind it.
We need people, and I'm absolutely fine with it. We want to have it. We need it because we're going to have a lot of companies coming in to avoid tariffs. If you don't want tariffs, all you have to do is build your plant in the U.S., so we're going to have a lot of workers coming in.
So he essentially said that if companies overseas want to avoid paying tariffs to the United States for selling their goods in the United States, then they should just build their factories in the United States and avoid those tariffs. So we'll see how that plays out as well. But to Pritzker saying that nothing in Trump's agenda would lower prices for people, Trump said drill, baby, drill. And the national energy emergency he put forth aims to get as much natural energy as possible, and that includes oil. He said it's a new golden age of America, and we're going to go after that gold under our feet, he said. But here he is yesterday talking about his economic policies focused on energy cost reduction, domino effect on all the other costs of consumer goods.
Signed a sweeping slate of executive orders to stop the invasion of our borders. I launched a government-wide effort to defeat inflation and bring down the cost of daily life and bring down the cost of energy, magnificently bring it down. And when energy comes down, Larry, I'd say generally speaking, when energy comes down, everything else comes down. The prices of food and the prices of everything else come down. Energy is that's the big baby. And we declared a national energy emergency to drill, baby, drill.
And he went on from there talking about the policies he set forth. So a lot of different issues. I mean, we're only, day 2 of the Pritzer butting heads with Donald Trump. We're going to see a lot of this over the next 2 years, if not an entire 4 years. Bombast is going to be all over the place. All right, people are going to be loud and vociferous about their disagreements with President Donald Trump. But Pritzker also talking about Elon Musk. If you remember seeing the inauguration ceremony, Musk was right there sitting alongside the Trump family. But it wasn't just Musk. It was Jeff Bezos, another billionaire. It was Mark Zuckerberg, another billionaire. It was the CEO of Google, another billionaire. So Pritzker yesterday was asked about all of these billionaires. Pritzker, by the way, himself, a billionaire, asked about all these billionaires that are seeming to cozy up with President Donald Trump.
Maybe some of them have delusions of becoming dictators themselves, and I was frankly disgusted when I saw yesterday at a presidential rally, not a campaign rally. This is a rally of the President of the United States. Elon Musk standing up and giving a Sig Heil, and then excusing himself for it by saying, well, he was just putting his heart out to people. I think it's disgusting. It should be called out. The president should call it out, and Elon Musk owes an apology to the American people.
By now, you've already seen the video, and you've seen plenty of people really condemning it. But the Anti-Defamation League, a group that consistently goes after who they believe are anti-Semitic, they posted this on X, saying this is a delicate moment. It's a new day, and yet so many are on edge. Our politics are inflamed, and social media only adds to the anxiety. It seems that Elon Musk made an awkward gesture in a moment of enthusiasm, not a Nazi salute, but again, we appreciate that people are on edge. In this moment, all sides should give one another a bit of grace, perhaps even the benefit of the doubt, and take a breath. This is a new beginning. Let's hope for healing and work toward unity in the months and years ahead. And Elon Musk even responding to that, thanks guys, with a laughing, crying emoji. So the Anti-Defamation League going after anti-Semitic people. Governor Pritzker seems to not really agree with that, and not only said that yesterday during a news conference about the gesture that Elon Musk made, but also posting to X about it with the video shared by the PBS, the public broadcasting service, saying that this is resembling of a Nazi gesture. Pretty fascinating. Will we see this type of hyperbole from both sides over the next 2 years, over the next 4 years? Likely, after what we saw over the past 8 to 9 years. It's Illinois in Focus Daily. I'm Greg Bishop. Like, subscribe, hit that notification bell. Wake up with us each and every weekday morning here with America's Talking Network. Get the podcast where you get podcasts. Just search Illinois in Focus and you'll find it, and get the headlines in your inbox each and every weekday morning with thecentersquare.com. That's all I got for you today. We will be watching the Illinois Supreme Court. They start at about 9 o'clock this morning. You can go watch it yourself. Case challenging the state's limits on where people can sue on constitutional grounds. If you remember, this law was enacted by Governor J.B. Pritzker that says if you're suing the state on constitutional grounds, you can only sue in Sangamon or Cook counties, not the 100 other counties that there are across the state. So we'll review that tomorrow. But we also have some other stuff we have to review when it comes to gun litigation, the latest filings in the challenge to Illinois' prohibition of concealed carry on mass transit. Some of those filings from the state and Cook County were filed last week, so we'll review those. But anybody looking for updates on the gun ban challenge in the appeals courts still do not have any dates spelled out. So we're still waiting to see any updates out of the appeals court. So we'll talk more about those things tomorrow. So like, subscribe, hit that notification bell. Wake up with us every weekday morning here at 8 a.m. with Illinois in Focus Daily as part of America's Talking Network and thecentersquare.com.
Put it in the